Hi guys, Olive here today to talk to you about all of the 5-star books I've read so far this year. This is always the time of year when I take a look back at the reading that I've done over the past 6 months, and then I look at the best of the best, and I make a best books of the year so far list. I rank them, it's a whole to-do, and I've been doing it for quite some time. But I noticed, when I've been thinking back on my 2023 reading up to this point, I'm just not rating a whole lot of books that prestigious 5 stars that would earn them a spot on that list. Maybe I'm getting more stingy with my 5-star ratings as time goes on, or maybe it's just one of those years, because I've had a ton of 4-star reads, which I'm not complaining about, those books were still amazing, but there just weren't enough 5-star books to make my usual list. So instead, I'm going to make this a little bit more of an informal video, and I'm just going to spend some time gushing about the books that I have rated 5 stars so far in 2023. I'll start off by discussing 2 books that are more of honorable mentions on this list because I had already read both of these. These were 2 rereads for me. I already knew I loved both of them, but I'm going to talk about them anyway because I love them so much. Right at the beginning of the year, in the spirit of New Year's resolutions, I reread the pop science book, The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. This book discusses habits and habit formation in the brain, and the author demonstrates that science in action by telling us some really entertaining stories. I am so glad I reread this one. Not only is it a ton of fun, I really love to recommend this book to people, and I had really missed it. Like, reading it felt like the best kind of reunion, but also it's been really good for me because I had forgotten some points from within this book. It had been a number of years since I had read it for the very first time, and I'm really glad I got that refresh because it's been very helpful for me thus far this year in building new good habits and reinforcing existing good habits. This was a great choice of a reread for the beginning of the year. And the other reread that I've done so far in 2023 is always very good for me. Every single June, I reread Rules of Civility by Amor Towles. This book is about how the year 1938 ends up becoming a keystone year in the life of our main character, Katie Content. The people she meets, the career decisions that she makes, the lessons she learns, the way her world expands over that calendar year, and therefore throughout this book, has quite simply fed my soul over the years. And somehow it keeps on doing so because I get something new from it every single year without fail. And this is my 9th time having read this book. So not that I needed the confirmation, but yes, this is in fact still my favorite book. But now let's move on to all the new stuff, all the books that I read for the first time this year that really left an impression on me. And Along Came a Llama by Ruth Jeanette Ruck was a book I thought I'd have fun with. I mean, it's a book with a llama on the cover, but I didn't expect to be nearly heartbroken by the time this book was over because I didn't want it to be over that badly. In this memoir, the author discusses how her family adopted a llama to live on their Welsh farm back in the 1970s. Long before keeping llamas was more of a common thing, and way before the internet was around to teach people how to care for these creatures. Between the charm of this llama, the loving way the family cared for her, and the author's vulnerability in discussing her own struggles with MS, this book really touched my heart. I was also totally unprepared for White Oleander by Janet Fitch, which essentially had me drunk off of the intoxicating way this author would phrase things. This book is about a young woman named Astrid who gets tossed into the American foster care system after her poet mother is sent to prison for killing an ex-lover of hers who had rejected her. Astrid goes from foster home to foster home, trying to make sense of the world, with nothing more of her mother to protect her than the gift of language, which Astrid clearly inherited from her mother. I know I'm late to the party here, but this was incredible. Also a little late, earlier this year, I finally did pick up Caste by Isabel Wilkerson, a nonfiction book that brings up the caste systems in both India and Nazi Germany in order to compare them to the situation that's been going on here in the United States. And those comparisons make for one hell of a case that we Americans have been living under an unspoken caste system for quite some time. Now, I knew before I even read this book that it was going to be great. A lot of people whose opinions I really respect had already read this book and sung its praises by the time I finally got around to reading it. but a book that makes me see the world differently, one whose messages I carry into my everyday life, especially one as well written as this, is always going to be a 5-star book for me. One book that I finished just very recently that rang all of my bells is How to Tame a Fox and Build a Dog by Lee Allen Dugatkin and Ludmila Trutt. This book tells the story of a genetic experiment that began in Siberia back in the late 1950s. A curious and charismatic scientist wanted to see if it was possible to recreate and also speed up the process by which wolves turned into dogs by selectively breeding foxes on a fox fur farm based on how tame they were. The results of that experiment? Let's just say they were incredible. But this grander story, which involved so much crazy Soviet history and human turmoil, was beyond compelling. And it checked off so many boxes on my personal list of interests that it kind of feels like it was written with me in mind. One of those interests, as you may have been able to gather from some of the books on this list, is animals. I have been an animal lover my entire life. Books about animals always call to me. But one that I didn't know I was going to fall head over heels in love with when I picked it up is The Penguin Lessons by Tom Michel, the story of how this author accidentally adopted a Magellanic penguin back in the 1970s when he was teaching school in Argentina. I am always a sucker for books about human-animal friendships, but this one is truly something special. It is hilarious, it's sweet, it is not to be missed. If you want to hear me talk more about it, I actually gave this one its own review in a video in which I also talked about one other book on penguins. If you want to see that video, I will link it for you in the description box below and up in the cards. And that's pretty much where things stand at this point in 2023. As I said, there just haven't been many 5-star reads, but I promise I'm not looking for sympathy. These books were fantastic. I am so grateful to have read them. And as I said at the start of the video, I've read a ton of 4-star books as well. So I am not hurting for great reading material. But I am looking forward to the second half of the year. I am hoping that that half of the year will provide at least a few more 5-star reads just to help me round out my year-end list in December. If you want to read any of these books, if you have read them and you want to share your thoughts, if you have any recommendations for me, if you just want to chat, please feel free to use the comment section below. All the books that I did discuss today will be linked for you in the description box below for your clicking convenience. Any other links I promised you will be down there as well. And at the bottom of that exact same description box, you will also see links to everywhere you can find me around the internet, like Goodreads, Instagram, the Storygraph, all the places I'm the most active, in case you want to keep up with what I'm reading and what I'm doing right now. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you're having a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.